Hey Saints, so I love finding connections between the Old Testament and the New Testament. I love finding the parallels. The Bible is a tapestry of stories, teachings, and infinite revelations, woven together in a way that fulfills prophecy and testifies to the one true God. The Bible may have been written by many men, but its author is none other than the Holy Spirit. So in this video, I want to look at Jacob from the Old Testament and the Apostle Paul in the New Testament. So the Apostle Paul says this in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, starting in verse 3. I came to you in weakness and fear, and with much trembling. My message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not rest on men's wisdom, but on God's power. So in other words, lean not into your own understanding, but put your faith in God. I see this as a direct echo of when the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament was wrestling with Jacob and dislocated his hip, so that Jacob would no longer be able to rely on his own strength, but always have to lean into and rely on the Lord's. This parallel between Paul's ministry and Jacob wrestling with the angel of the Lord is a meaningful and often discussed theological comparison. Both narratives feature a divine encounter that leaves a person with a physical infirmity, intended to humble them and cause them to rely on God's power rather than their own. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, the Apostle Paul also speaks of a thorn in the flesh, a persistent and debilitating ailment delivered by a messenger of Satan. So a touch to Jacob's hip socket leaves him with a permanent limp. The injury is a physical reminder of his surrender to God. Paul's thorn in the flesh is a persistent weakness that he prays to God to remove. God's response is, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. So God dislocates Jacob's hip to break him of his self-reliance and his pride. In the weakness of Paul's ministry, his fear and much trembling and lack of persuasive words ensures that the faith of his listeners rests on God's might and not Paul's human abilities. So the connection here is real simple, and it's all throughout the Bible. The connection is that of divine power being displayed through human weakness. Christ is King.